show and tell. I don't have. I've watched Santo movies. I don't have a show and tell slide for you, so I've just got the books of what I've been reading. I've been going through Dylan Thomas's collected poems, and these are, man, Dylan Thomas he's great because he is simultaneously one of the most accessibly anthologized poets because of Do Not Go Gentle into it. Do not go gently or do not go gentle? Do not go gentle might be my southernism. Do not go burger into that good fries. Do not go gentle into that good night. That's it. So it's like there's that which everybody reads at funerals and has a sort of very pick you up. Ain't going gentle and no good night. Has a good rallying vibe to it. And then there's but most of his work is syntactically very strange in a way that I find very compelling, and that it is it's the sort of thing that are like I guess, to use a FromSoft comparison, Elden Ring's accessibility, if you go into that thinking that all of FromSoft's games are like that, you're going to be sorely disappointed. Because they are, even in the Souls lineage, somewhat more esoteric, even for the lack of a jump button, right? But yeah, on no work of words now for 3 lean months, in the bloody belly of the rich year and the big purse of my body, I bitterly take to task my poverty and craft. To take to give is all. Return what is hungrily given, puffing the pounds of manna up through the dew to heaven. The lovely gift of the gab bangs backed on the blind shaft. I mean, there's that very Gerard Manley Hopkins-esque comfort with being unintelligible but musical. And the longer you stick with it, you do find that there is a meaning in there. Well, that could be quite plainly stated, but that's not why we're here reading Dylan Thomas, right? Plain statements are for a different kind of poet. So I've been enjoying reading these, and it's actually helped me with a project that I'm working on where I was looking for a reference for a particular range of my own style that I sometimes need to read around that other writers like that to access. Started reading Theophila. I don't know how to pronounce the first name, but I do know the last name is Gautier. One of Cleopatra's Knights, which shows up in H.P. Lovecraft's essay on supernatural horror and fiction. I think that's the title of it. As a great example of weird fiction and evoking the strange, mysterious, and long architectured civilization. These sort of ruins and that sort of gothic vibe, except with a little bit of overlap with a sort of ancient Egyptian theme that I think was more popular back then than is now. I think the closest we have to it is The Mummy with Brendan Fraser. So I've started reading this, and as expected, the landscape descriptions are crisp. They are brutal. They are the kind of aesthetic broken things that of ancient time that you would associate with Lovecraft. On the more difficult end of things, these two things have paired well. Finally getting back to Sartre's The Imaginary, which is, I believe, an earlier work of his that he is talking about perception in a way that is very difficult to follow, and that is so idiosyncratically descriptive that it's difficult to find purchase on following him. But he goes. But this is the thing. I don't dismiss any of it as word salad, even if it is difficult to follow, because word salad, I think, implies a deliberate intent to obfuscate, and also implies that the speaker himself, in Sartre's case, doesn't have something meaningful to say. They're just throwing words out there, and I don't believe that's the case here. It's just as a reader who both doesn't have direct access to the perceptions he's describing, and who also, it's just frankly, as a layperson, I'm unfamiliar with this kind of writing. in my daily life, if I were an academic, right, I would have a much quicker pickup on it. He gets places though that are extremely valuable to me, and that's what is worth reading. The big idea in here that interests me is his writing on the symbol as a category of image, and describing how he thinks we arrive at images and what they mean. And also really his the sort of assertion that we organize our lives through imagination. We organize ourselves through imagination and through these structures of imagination that he calls images, and that is what we can know. The sense is never simply the sense. Sensory experience must be converted into an image for us to be able to navigate. And for me, I think that's very true. The complement that I'm reading to this is Alfred Korzybski's Science and Sanity. Alfred Korzybsky, it's general semantics is the field that he founded back in, I think, 1941. Definitely a very very particular time in world history. And his goal is to propose a non-Aristotelian metaphysics in order to bring the I guess buzzwordy as this might sound, the praxis of the sciences to other fields of knowledge, so that we can move away from ideas that are sort of Aristotelian, like substance, absolutes, notions of the word all he dislikes, the word is he dislikes. And so rather than trying to describe things as essences or as substances, describe them as instances, describe them as moments. And the difference being that, maybe you might say, Dylan stole something versus Dylan is a thief, right? The Dylan is a thief statement is a substance statement. That's what Dylan is. That is what Dylan is equal to. And in that statement, there is no opportunity for him to be anything else other than a thief. Dylan stole something. That asks questions. Why? What? Under what circumstances? It doesn't essentialize Dylan as one thing. Excuse me. And so and I think the Korzybski's most famous sort of adage is the map is not the territory. And so these pair quite well, science and sanity and the imaginary. Yeah, there we go. These pair quite well because in each instance, both writers are acknowledging that what we use to navigate our moment to moments and the long haul of our lives are not direct reality, but the way that we encode and then organize reality. And I think that a lot of I actually believe that some neuroscience backs this up since then. But and this is valuable to me because he has an idea called time binding. That these two ideas, time binding and Sartre as the analogon, are fascinating to me because they are acts of unifying. They're acts of unifying the kinds of perceptions that we create in order to make sense of our lives. So they're like the second order of creation. We make perceptions. We encode them as images, and then we organize them, and that level of organization is what they're talking about. So again, kind of very heady. That's the best I understand it right now, and I'm continuing to read through it. Good stuff. And finally is so went on a trip this past weekend and took the kiddo into a bookstore for a travel book, which is what you do on vacation, right? You got to car ride, so you get a new book, and I think that's a great tradition, great thing to do. And as is the case when you do anything with a toddler, you end up spending the majority of your time on them rather than yourself. So on the way out the door to get my book for the trip, I was like, oh, I don't even have the headspace to to decide. So I was like, you know what? I make these executive choices for the kiddo about what book he's going to read, and why don't I just accept being on the other end of that. So I took him over to the book of the fiction shelf. I said, all right, what's my next read for the vacation? Grabbed something, and I was tempted to look at it, but I realized that if I looked at it, then I would be violating the rules of the game, right? Which is to accept it, and I wanted just to see what it is. And this is what I've been reading. It is Queenie. Who's this? Candace Carty-Williams. Queenie by Candace Carty-Williams, which is about a black English woman dealing with the personal difficulties following a breakup in a 2 to 3 year long relationship, and sort of finding a great deal of instability in her life as she struggles with that. The blurb on the top is by Candace Bushnell, who created Sex and the City, and that is very much that's the target audience, I think, for this book, outside of the curious and the accidental. But it's well written. It's well written. You know, you do feel for the main character, Queenie. You do hope that her relationship with Tom gets sorted out, and but as it goes on and you sort of learn a little bit more about their problems, you kind of think maybe, well, it's a good idea that she and Tom aren't together. But that might be a reality that would, you know, affirm the maladaptive behaviors she's sort of following in trying to deal with all that. So yeah, Queenie. It's fun and unexpected, and I think that this is actually a really good way to broaden your reading horizons. Because if you're just like, all right, I'm going to close my eyes, I'm going to pick something off this bookshelf, or I'm going to try to be random about it, you're never truly random. There's nothing as random as a 2-year-old. So anything that you think that you can just randomly select, absolutely not as random as that. So this is a great way to go about it. But yeah, so that's the show and tell. That's what I'm reading. Dylan Thomas, Sartre, Korzybzky, Gautier, and Carty-Williams.